So I already have him, for time's sake, hooked up to his carriage except for the holdbacks, which I'll show you. And I'll just start from walkthrough the process. So the process, get your pony, tie him up. Always. Always tie up your horse. The idea of standing him loose in the middle of the yard to hitch him up, well, it make no sense to me. If you, it doesn't take much. And the only two carts in our years with the history that were actually seriously damaged were seriously damaged by exactly that. A very quiet, bomb-proof, well-trained, awesome horse, standing loose, unhitched, untied, walked off. Walked off with the cart. As soon as they start to walk off, they started to run off. So, big advocate of tying. It's a lot easier to keep your attention on the rest of the harness and how you're hitching and getting all your parts where they belong and adjusted without having to try to hang on to the lines and pay attention to that horse. Good on that. So you fully harness, of course, and then I have an overhalter, just simply a bigger one. You can lots use an underhalter. You can have them too, just anything you can use that you tie the horse stays tied without being tied to the bridle. So we have our traces set to where when the horse pulls, he pulls on the traces. You don't want your traces too short, you don't want your traces too long. If your traces are too long, then what happens is easily this cart will be pulled by the shaft loops. If it is pulled by the shaft loops, it sucks back the gig saddle. The solution is not to tie a neck connector nor a martingale. The solution is to get your traces set correctly so that when the horse is pulling the cart, he's pulling them on the traces. So that's easy. Breeching, you have your back strap to where it is just like so. Now we'll do up these holdbacks, differing ways, lots of different ideas about what's the right way, what's the best way. It depends somewhat on the length. So I go 2 wraps on mine. I start from underneath and I wrap through that top one to the shortest hole on his. So there we have that. Wrap through twice. Again, you want to capture. You can capture this trace. Now, on a breastplate harness, you would run this, generally speaking, in between here. In between that gap in your holdback. I don't do that because I have collar and hame. I have my trace carriers on my harness. I go around. I also, only for the purpose of being able to see in the video, I'm right up against, sideways against the barn wall. I would not be. We would be straight to the barn wall. Just a side note. I don't want to be jammed right in here. This would not be where you would go. Only hooked here for the purpose of the video, so you can see what I'm doing from the side there. So now I've got those both done up. Now the play in the breeching is what I call the play. You can definitely, that's normal, one hand in there, and you can watch. So I go forward, breeching engages, back. And you can see this go forward. Sorry, dog. He says, "What are you doing?" So that's how you can have a look. And generally though, this is a good hand in there. The reason you don't want that too tight, some horses like it tighter. Tighter horse, the green horse, if it's too tight, that makes them a little claustrophobic. If it's too loose, then if anything, if that cart comes forward too quick, then that'll smack them around. So generally speaking, I call it about 2 inches of play there between engaged on the traces, engaged on the breeching. All right. So sorry, Tom. All right. The girth, I have the girth like so. I can get my hand in there, save the over girth. That can go up and down. And much of this will depend, I suppose, on your harness and your carriage. So your breastplate would be your straight line of draft. That's the highlights though. The highlights are not too tight here. That space between the breeching. Wrap these, capturing through one of the racks. All depending on how long they are. That's probably it. Depends how long they are. Sometimes lots of people take them and snap them here, tie them up to a snap, and then just snap them. So they never change these ever. Yeah. But that's how I like to do it. Okay, and I think that covers it. Any questions? If I missed something, okie dokie. Now we're going for a drive, buddy.